Hope can blind a nation. It blinded China. It blinded the world. Mao Zedong rose as a hero, a man who promised dignity to the poor and freedom to the broken. But dictators don't seize power in one night. They wait. They listen. They learn what people love, so they know what to weaponize. Mao smiled. Mao promised openness. Mao asked the people to speak. And when they finally did, when they trusted him with their truth, he used it to destroy them. This is the moment the world learned what China would learn in fear. Mao Zedong was never a liberator. He was a trap. China, 1949. Gunfire fades. Flags rise. A million voices roar in Tiananmen Square. Mao Zedong stands on the platform, coat heavy with dust, eyes fixed on a nation broken by war. People look up at him like salvation carved into flesh. Farmers cheer the man who promises land. Workers cheer the man who promises food. Intellectuals cheer the man who promises dignity. Soldiers cheer the man who carried them through fire and starvation. For the first time in generations, China believes a leader actually understands their suffering. Foreign reporters write glowing stories. A new China begins. A leader of the people. The world sees a gentle revolutionary, a philosopher warrior, a man who defeated emperors and invaders without becoming one. Inside the new government, respected men gather around Mao. Zhou Enlai, calm, loyal, steady. Liu Shaoqi, disciplined, admired by party veterans. Peng Dehuai, war hero with a blunt tongue. Deng Xiaoping, sharp mind, rising fast. They trust Mao. They believe in his vision. They think the revolution will be built on debate, unity, honesty. But even in this celebration, thin cracks appear. A newspaper editor suggests a headline change. He's reassigned the next morning. A local cadre questions the pace of land reform. His loyalty is publicly doubted. A poet writes a line too direct. His name is quietly removed from magazines. Small punishments, barely visible, easy to dismiss in the glow of victory. Historian Jonathan Spence later wrote that early Mao combined inspiration with a subtle tightening of control. Ordinary people don't see the tightening. They see only the hero. Children wave red flags. Women whisper prayers of gratitude. Men promise their sons that China is finally free. Mao watches them with a soft smile, a smile they mistake for kindness. But power is already shaping him. He studies how people cheer. He notes who hesitates. He learns who obeys quickly and who might one day oppose him. The world sees a liberator crowned by his people. China sees the birth of a new era. But in Mao's eyes, the victory is something else entirely. The beginning of control. Early 1950s. The revolution settles into daily life. For most people, it feels like sunrise. Schools reopen. Children read from clean textbooks printed with Mao's words. Illiterate farmers learn basic characters for the first time. Doctors from the cities travel to villages that never had medicine before. Foreign newspapers publish headlines like, "Mao modernizes China, a nation reborn." Factories begin production at a pace China hasn't seen in decades. Workers chant slogans of unity. The party praises improvements in literacy, health, industry, and the world claps. Inside China, intellectuals feel cautious optimism. University professors teach openly again. Writers return to their desks. Journalists hope real reporting might survive the revolution. They see problems: local corruption, harsh land trials, uneven policy. But they still believe Mao wants a stronger, fairer China. Zhou Enlai works tirelessly to stabilize the new state. Liu Shaoqi organizes economic planning. Deng Xiaoping streamlines bureaucracy. Peng Dehuai rebuilds the military. Mao lets them work. He enjoys the admiration, the articles praising his leadership, the students waving his portrait in parades. But beneath the optimism, China begins to feel watched. A teacher in Chongqing criticizes a local official during a meeting. 2 days later, she is transferred to a remote village for re-education. A journalist in Wuhan reports shortages in grain. His editor receives a warning phone call after midnight. The article never prints again. A poet publishes a verse comparing truth to sunlight. Cadres call it dangerous symbolism and demand an apology. Each punishment is small, almost invisible, but each one teaches the same lesson. Speak carefully, think quietly, watch your words. Historian Merle Goldman later wrote, "In the early 1950s, intellectuals learned the limits of freedom, limits with Mao's name on them. Still, the people push hope forward. They tell themselves the repression is temporary, the mistakes are local, the chairman surely doesn't approve. Because who wants to believe the man who saved China is also the man tightening the noose?" Mao watches these early warnings with interest. He sees what fear can do. He sees what silence can build. The nation believes it is improving. The world believes China is rising. Mao believes something else. Control works. 1956. 7 years into Mao's rule, China looks stable. Hope hasn't died yet. It's just quieter. Intellectuals still feel pressure, but they also sense a shift. At party meetings in Beijing, Mao suddenly announces a new idea. Let 100 flowers bloom. Let 100 schools of thought contend. Cadres stare at him in confusion. Professors whisper to one another. Journalists trade hopeful glances. Mao says China needs criticism. He says truth will make socialism stronger. He says the party should welcome honest voices. It sounds impossible, but the country wants to believe. At Peking University, students post handwritten essays calling for academic freedom. History professor Luo Longji encourages open debate. Philosophers meet in packed classrooms discussing political reform. In Shanghai, writers circle passages in their manuscripts they were once afraid to print. They bring back banned ideas, carefully, nervously. In Guangzhou, engineers and economists gather to talk openly about broken systems and impossible quotas. Zhou Enlai supports the movement. He tells intellectuals, "Your voices matter to the future of China." Liu Shaoqi urges caution, but believes criticism might prevent policy disasters. Deng Xiaoping, rising in influence, says mistakes must be corrected through honest discussion. Even foreign observers take notice. The New York Times writes, "China's government encourages public debate." European journalists describe Mao as surprisingly tolerant. The world sees a reformer, a patient leader, a man confident enough to allow dissent. And inside China, hope sparks again. Writers believe they might shape the nation. Students believe China might become modern and open. Teachers believe the fear might finally fade. Crowds gather for public forums. Some speak nervously, others boldly. A rural teacher reads a letter aloud. We support the revolution, but corruption terrifies us more than the old landlords ever did. A young journalist asks, why do cadres punish truth? Citizens clap. The applause is real. For the first time since Mao took power, China talks to itself honestly. And Mao watches. He smiles. He listens. He nods. No one knows what that smile means. No one knows he is memorizing names. No one knows he is counting every critic. This is the moment China believes openness has arrived. But behind Mao's calm face, another belief forms. They have finally revealed themselves. The stage is set. The voices are loud. The truth is blooming everywhere, and Mao is ready to cut it all down. Early to mid-1957, the voices Mao invited begin saying things he never expected to hear. At first, criticism was careful, polite, soft around the edges. Now, it sharpens. At Peking University, a student stands on a chair in a crowded hallway and shouts, "Why does one man decide everything?" Gasps erupt. Nobody stops him. In Shanghai, playwrights stage performances mocking party officials. Not just the small ones, the big ones. People laugh too loudly, too freely. In Henan, farmers mail desperate letters to Beijing. Children are starving. Local cadres take our grain for themselves. Does the chairman know? These letters are stamped, sent, and publicly copied on village walls. Inside Beijing ministries, panic spreads. Cadres rush to destroy old documents, rewrite reports, plead for forgiveness before accusations can land. A railway administrator confesses he falsified numbers in fear of punishment. His confession inspires others. Soon entire offices admit the truth. The system is broken, and Mao is being blamed for it. Professor Luo Longji publishes his boldest statement yet. Power must be limited, even under socialism. The essay spreads across universities like wildfire. Students chant, "We want laws. We want accountability. Correct mistakes from the top." Foreign diplomats attend open forums. They send reports back home titled, "China Experiences First Political Awakening." Mao's government faces unprecedented criticism. Western newspapers cautiously praise the movement as China's step toward true democracy. But inside the party, the mood shifts from uneasy to terrified. Zhou Enlai keeps a calm face, but inside, he sees danger. He whispers to a colleague, "If this continues, chaos will follow." Liu Shaoqi urges Mao to set limits. "Chairman, they are moving too fast." Deng Xiaoping receives boxes of letters pleading for justice, for freedom, for protection from corrupt officials. He tells Mao, "The anger is deeper than we thought." And Mao hears it all. The criticism, the laughter, the calls for reform, the accusations aimed at Beijing and at him. One day, Mao receives a report from Tsinghua University. Students demand the right to choose leaders. Students criticize Chairman Mao directly. Students say the revolution has lost its way. This is the moment Mao stops smiling. He realizes something dangerous. The people are no longer speaking because he allowed it. They are speaking because they do not fear him. That is the unforgivable sin. Cadres come to Mao in panic. Chairman, the movement is out of control. Criticism is turning into rebellion. They are questioning your leadership. Mao listens quietly. Too quietly. He does not shout. He does not argue. He simply folds the letters, closes the reports, and makes a decision no one hears yet. They showed themselves. Now I will show them who I am. The movement Mao invited has become the weapon he fears. And the world, still applauding China's openness, has no idea that Mao is about to turn every blooming voice into a target. Hope is ending. Judgment is coming. Mid-1957. This is the moment everything turns. The moment Mao stops pretending. The moment the world finally sees the dictator. Overnight, the tone from Beijing shifts. No warning, no explanation, just a sudden command. Rightists have attacked the party. Those same professors, writers, workers, and students Mao invited to speak are now enemies of the state. Newspapers that once printed calls for openness now scream a new slogan: punish the poisonous weeds. The Anti-Rightist Campaign begins, and it begins brutally. Across Beijing, police enter universities at dawn. They go dorm to dorm, classroom to classroom, office to office, reading off names the regime collected during the 100 Flowers movement. The young man who asked, "Why does one man decide everything?" is dragged out of class. He will spend years in a labor camp. His family is told to reflect on their failure. Professor Luo Longji, once a respected voice, is denounced by mobs, forced to stand for hours while former students scream insults written by the party. In Shanghai, the playwrights who mocked corrupt officials are arrested under charges of spreading counter-revolutionary poison. Their stages go dark. In rural Henan, the farmers who wrote letters about starvation are rounded up as traitors. Their children watch in silence. Their neighbors dare not speak their names again. A journalist in Guangzhou, who once asked, "Why do cadres punish truth?" receives a midnight knock. He disappears. His wife receives his coat 3 months later. Foreign embassies send urgent cables home. China reverses policy. Mass arrests underway. Intellectuals targeted. Western newspapers change overnight from praise to alarm. Mao turns against free speech. Critics vanish across China. Reform crushed by sudden purge. This is the moment the world realizes what China is already learning in terror. Mao didn't want truth. He wanted names. He didn't invite criticism. He hunted it. By the end of 1957, over 550,000 people are labeled rightists. Many are sent to remote labor camps. Many die there. Families shatter. Careers disappear. China's best thinkers become prisoners overnight. And Mao watches it all unfold in calm satisfaction. He stands before party leaders and says, "The people exposed themselves. We simply responded." This is not a mistake, not a misunderstanding, not a temporary campaign. This is Mao Zedong showing China and the world exactly who he is. The moment is unmistakable. The liberator dies. The dictator is born. Late 1957. After the anti-rightist purge grips China, a new sound spreads across the country: silence. Universities that echoed with debate now echo with footsteps of police. Lecture halls sit half empty. Professors gone, students expelled, ideas extinguished. In Beijing, The courtyard where scholars once argued about truth is now filled with posters labeling them poison, traitors, enemies of the people. Families tear down old letters, burn diaries, shred notebooks. A single opinion can cost a life. A school teacher in Chongqing rewrites her entire curriculum. She removes any sentence that could be misinterpreted. She warns her class, "Be careful what you think. Be careful what you repeat." Workers who once suggested improvements to factories now stay silent. One wrong word can be treated as rebellion. Farmers watch neighbors disappear after reporting famine. They learn never to report famine again. Inside the party, officials begin performing loyalty like actors trapped in a play. Cadres applaud harder. Meetings grow longer. Nobody risks being the last to clap after Mao speaks. Foreign journalists request interviews. They receive identical answers. There are no problems. There is no dissent. There is no fear. Behind closed doors, diplomats write in private cables. China has closed its mouth. Criticism is now a crime. Mao has eliminated opposition entirely. Historian Roderick McFarquhar later wrote that this campaign destroyed China's capacity for political honesty. He's right. The intellectual class, the nation's voice, is broken. Mao is no longer questioned. Not in public, not in private, not even in whispers. The 100 flowers had bloomed. Now the ashes blow across China's cities and fields. The country understands the new rule. Even truth must kneel. Even thoughts must obey. The world sees it too. The admiration dies. The mask is gone. Mao's China is no longer rising. It is shutting down. And the dictator has only just begun. China spoke the truth once. Just once. And Mao made sure it would never happen again. The Anti-Rightist Campaign didn't just silence a generation. It broke the spine of a nation. Writers, teachers, students, thinkers, the people who could warn China of disaster, were erased. And with no voices left to challenge him, Mao unleashed the Great Leap Forward. Then the Cultural Revolution. Then a decade of madness the world would struggle to understand. All of it came from one moment, one choice, one mask falling. The world finally saw Mao Zedong not as a liberator, but as the dictator he had always been waiting to become. Freedom didn't die in a battlefield. It died in a silence Mao created himself. And China learned the price of trusting a man who feared truth more than he feared failure. Because the moment a dictator kills truth, he kills the future that truth could have saved.